Hi guys, welcome to a quick tutorial. This tutorial is quick because it's easy for me to make these and I'm trying to keep this quick for you to learn something useful. In this one, I want to show you how you can use your Apple's XDR displays as a very accurate HDR reference monitor. So if you have a newer MacBook Pro, the M1 Pro or like M2, well, those like newer ones, you probably have an XDR display, and that's actually a very accurate HDR display. And now I'm going to show you how you can use that in DaVinci Resolve. And actually, even if you don't have an XDR display, I will show you a trick how you can still create HDR content in this tutorial. So let's start. So we're going to do this in 4 parts. The first part, how do we create HDR grades in DaVinci Resolve? Well, here we are in DaVinci Resolve. We have our clip. This is GH6 vlog footage, so it has a lot of dynamic range, so we can use this for creating an HDR grade. You go to the color management, and then you select ACES CCT in this case. I recommend this. You go to ACES output transforms, select one of these HDR output profiles, and I recommend this Rec 2020 ST 2084 1000 nits. Press save. And it went very flat, but this is because the Resolve doesn't understand what footage is this, so we need to tell Resolve what is this. So right click the clip, you go to ACES input transform, select your profile, and in this case it's vlog, so this is the profile for vlog. So it looks a bit better, but still it doesn't look anything like it should. Still looks log. Well, we'll get to that soon. Let's now do the grade. Let's activate the color correction, and then let's activate our grade. And you can see something happened, but this doesn't still look very accurate. And this is actually because this is now done to the output profile that we used, like the PQ 1000 nits. This is HDR footage, but DaVinci Resolve is not telling our display that this is actually HDR footage. So it's just sending it as SDR footage, so standard dynamic range. So next we'll need to make sure that Resolve sends this signal as an HDR signal to our display. So our display can understand that, okay, this is HDR footage, so let's show it as HDR footage. To do that, so this is the second part of the tutorial, how to make Resolve send an HDR signal to our display. You go to DaVinci Resolve, Preferences, General, and click this. Use Mac display color profiles on viewers and save. And it prompts us to restart Resolve. Let's do that. And now in DaVinci Resolve, the image looks very HDR. You can actually see how much light is casting on my face. It's really bright because the XDR display can go really bright. But for you guys, it doesn't look correct. For me, this gradient looks very smooth. There's no harsh clipping. But for you guys, there's probably a very harsh clipping somewhere here before it reaches the sun. And the reason is that this is not an HDR video that you're looking right now. And my screen recording software doesn't record HDR. It records an SDR signal. So you're seeing something incorrect, but I'm actually seeing something very correct. Like the colors look really good, and the brightness is like I almost need to close my eyes because it's so bright, and you can see how much light is on my face. So this is how you use your screen as an HDR display, but there's still 2 parts left to a tutorial. The second part, and this actually applies even if you don't have an XDR display, how to monitor this footage as an SDR, so standard dynamic range. And that would allow, for example, you guys to see this gradient correctly, and it allows, if you're doing screen recording, anyway, so let me show you how can you do that. How can you monitor HDR footage on a normal SDR screen? So high dynamic range footage on a standard dynamic range scene display. You go to color management, and then in the color viewer lookup table, you go and find this lookup table. I will send a link to you, like there's a link in the description below this. Select this PQ 1000 nits view port monitoring in Rec 709. This one brings the exposure down from what it was, and now you can actually see the smooth gradient that I actually saw. But now this is no longer SDR. I mean, this is no longer HDR, so this is no longer high dynamic range. As you can see, it's not casting as much light on my face, and this is good for screen recordings. Or you can do this if you don't, if you have an older, like if you have a Windows computer doesn't have an HDR display, you can use this and still export. You can still monitor HDR footage and you can still export HDR footage. I hope this makes sense, but anyway. So that's the thing. You can use this lookup table. There's a link to this lookup table here below this video. And yep. And then the last thing is, how can you make your screen an accurate reference HDR monitor? So this is actually really bright, but this is actually brighter than 1000 nit reference monitor. So to do that, you need to open, where is it? We need to go into displays, find system preferences, and then here you go to presets, and from these presets, these are different from ICC profiles, by the way. You go to HDR video and you click, and to you guys it probably didn't change anything, but for me the screen went darker, and now I'm seeing what I would see on a very expensive HDR reference monitor. Though the light levels, the brightness levels are now like matching with an HDR reference monitor. Yeah. So those were the 4 parts. Let's recap them quickly. First was, you go to color management, select ACIS CCT, you select ACIS output transform, one of the hybrid low camera profile, hybrid dynamic range. No, what was it? High dynamic range. These acronyms are just, I'm messing them up. But anyway, you select one of these HDR display profiles. This one, for example. You make sure that your ACIS input transform is what you shot your footage with. Then you go to preferences, you go to general, and use Mac display color profiles for viewers, and then you restart, and then you can use, actually you can access it here as well. Click here, you go to display, and then you use this HDR video as your preset, and now you have a highly accurate HDR reference monitor at your disposal. So that was our quick tutorial.